Hey, we're here. Welcome to UTB Blogcast number 37. We have
laughing gas.
we have
Apparently.
Dave, Bartron, Chap, and Erica. It's been another cruddy week, right, guys?
It's been
Been a tough
awesome,
week.
dude.
It's
been interesting.
It's all good.
Okay, let's just jump in. The biggest news of the week, obviously, is the new Facebook app. Which, you know, if we were another four-letter site name, we would have been jumping up and down going that, hey, we were the ones that broke that news. So I just wanted to say that. Just wanted to throw that in there. So as we spoke about 2 blogcasts ago, the APIs that BlackBerry was using for their Facebook app, Facebook is basically doing away with them, which should really come as no surprise. Of course, APIs get dated and companies move things forward, but it sounds like in this case they're not offering another set that BlackBerry can use. I didn't even realize it until it was actually Ray commented on our post and brought a link that these other APIs that, you know, the other manufacturers are using are private APIs, and BlackBerry doesn't have access to those. So it sounds like Facebook is straight up forcing BlackBerry to not have a native working app on our platform.
Yeah, an internal API is, I guess, just exactly what it says. It's internal to Facebook, and they're the ones creating the app. It's not a third-party created app like BlackBerry was doing themselves. So internal API in itself means external parties don't have access to it, so you're hooped. The only way to get a native Facebook app on a BlackBerry right now is for Facebook to make it.
Does that mean?
And that's something that's been questioned a lot this week. We've had people questioning, you know, well, why did BlackBerry take away Facebook? It's like, well, obviously they didn't do it on purpose, and you know, let me just change the way I was saying that. I don't want to get into what people's comments are yet because I want to actually answer some people's comments a little later on. But BlackBerry, once again, was very forthcoming and very truthful with those that read inside BlackBerry as to why this has happened with their app. Going so far as to say that they have been trying to get Facebook to come back and allow WhatsApp on their platform and a true Facebook app. I mean, I don't think you would see another OEM being that truthful with its users.
No. Especially when those users are hungry for those apps. I think you'll find that most other OEMs would be running around trying to give the fob-offs. We're looking for solutions. We're trying to sort it out, etc., 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 rather than saying, well, here's the situation, guys. This is where we're at, and this is how we've got to run from the time being. But I think I said 2 blogcasts ago that for the most part, I mean, with the exception of the hub integration, when I'm using Facebook, I use the website anyway, so this hasn't changed anything for me. But I recognise that it has for a lot of other people.
Yeah, I'll go further than that. It's not made a lot of difference to me because I don't use it at all. And I don't
my account a while ago.
Yeah.
But
what's funny is I just put it back on my BlackBerry like 2 weeks ago when we decided to start using Facebook for UTB again, which still just makes me feel absolutely dirty. But hey, we're trying to provide a place for BlackBerry fans wherever they may congregate, right?
Well, BlackBerry is trying to protect your privacy, and Facebook is trying to exploit it. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if same kind of thing would happen if, let's say, Apple were to decide to protect your privacy properly. I'm pretty sure that you would get some kind of retaliation from Facebook as well. And that's really what it is. That's the way I see it anyways.
And we talk a lot about revenue, and revenue is important for all companies. Revenue, we know for Facebook, comes a lot through selling off users' data to other organizations. If you can't get the data, then you're not making the revenue. Why would you invest in an area where you're not making any money? Which kind of makes sense when you think about it. But interestingly enough, as somebody who does use Facebook, this change this week has got me looking at some of the other alternatives. I mean, there's Phase 10 that's out there. I've had a look at it, but also F5, which has recently come up, which is more of a mobile application. Well, it integrates with the mobile site, but there are a few other functions that it does, and I've got to admit, I don't mind it. Now that I'm using it, I find myself looking to it more than I have looked at the website in the past. So, I mean, there are ways, but yeah, I mean, this is something that has really kind of kicked the guts out of the community, especially when social media is concerned.
Yeah, and that's a fair comment. I shouldn't be so cavalier just because I don't use it. There's millions and billions of people that use it, and there's quite a few people that use it for work. Yeah, yeah. People who don't remember cranking their car to start it. You know, get off my lawn is all I gotta say. No, in all seriousness, there's lots of people that use it for work, and it's fair. I mean, just because I don't use it doesn't mean anything. I don't care about it, but there's millions of people who either perceive they need it or actually do, as much as I hate it.
Yeah.
I saw someone say that in one of our comments that they use it for business communication, and I just about messed my pants when I heard that. I can't imagine that. I mean, I can see that from I understand websites have their Facebook pages. I understand celebrities have their Facebook pages. That's a way to drum up chatter, I guess. But like a true business, I'm used to Facebook being where we used to post drunk pictures of ourselves, you know, and
what?
I can't imagine having a true business and wanting your customers to see you, while you're eating for your meals 3 times a day.
So, see, that's why you're not getting that promotion.
I figured when you said business, I figured it'd be just to, I guess, like a landing page. You put the information about the business, you can contact the business, submit feedback, and whatever. And to me, that's really the future of Facebook. That's what it could be useful for. For that, I mean, I want to get in touch with a business. I've done this on Facebook when I had my account. Get in touch with them, give them some feedback on something I bought one time. It was a drink at a coffee shop, and I didn't like it. The guy gets back to me and gives me a coupon for a free drink. So you want to get feedback to the company instead of having the company build their own mechanism of their website for that. That's actually pretty useful. They just go up, you create a page, and it's quick and easy. So for that. But I mean, despite that, there's no way in hell I'm going to create a Facebook account anymore.
I think I can understand the business
Bart
side
ended
of
up
it.
eating for free for 2 years just by complaining.
I think I can understand the business side of it. I work for a public agency, and they use it to post notifications and announcements and things like that for the people that are in our area. And then I also know that a lot of other agencies that I've worked with use it just to communicate with their employees, whether it be through Facebook Messenger, because they're already there. They don't have to go take the time to set something separately up. So I can understand the business side of it, and I can understand why they would use it in that way. I personally barely touch my Facebook. I have it just so I have it in case my family needs me. But I can understand the need for it for some people.
Well,
And
that
I
makes
think that's
one
what
of
we're
us.
pretty much down to. Well, I understand the need for it as well. I mean, having dealt with done youth groups and that sort of stuff, I can understand that the easy way of connecting to young person's social circle is to get in their social media, get in their social media heads, and Facebook for a long time has been where it's at. Yeah, who remembers MySpace? Dave, you remember MySpace? It was a long time ago.
I remember MySpace. It was MySpace.
Similar
It was mine.
sort of scenario.
Yeah.
It was a similar sort of scenario that you create that social platform, and there it is. And while basically 4 out of the 5 of us don't use Facebook or use it with any regular need, we're only 5. We're only 5. We're in the minority. We've got to admit that, regardless of what we think of Facebook. There's a necessity for people on their platform of choice, and we do want BlackBerry to be the platform of choice. So, interestingly enough, there was a WhatsApp petition started, and the person who started it was saying to me that the reason why that this is important, and Brad, you'll agree with me on this, is that even though BlackBerry is focusing on their enterprise customers, if you take away the things like WhatsApp and Facebook, then you're all but saying that the consumer market is lost and you're not going there anymore. And I think it's important for us to at least see ways around this. It is big news, regardless of what we think of Facebook and how we're going to respond to it.
Yeah, I'm not for 1 minute am saying, hey, we don't need it, I'm glad it's gone. I've seen people say that too. I don't need it, I don't want it, I don't want UTB blogs on it. But it's needed. I mean, the Facebook is an app, even more so than WhatsApp. Not having it will turn people away from our platform. We don't need them to have any reasons not to join in on our platform.
That's right. And that's the question you've got to ask then is that web experience superior to the app experience? And I think that's a subjective question more than a facts and figures type one. That might be something to put out to our listeners, watchers, whichever one you are. What's better, the app experience or the web experience? And what does that mean to you on a platform?
Well, this is a perfect example of what people being loud gets across. I'm not a Facebook user. I haven't been using the app. I haven't seen the issues with the app. All I've done is heard about it. And, within our own forums, it's been said 100 times at least, and I've read it elsewhere, and multiple times, people complaining about the app. It doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it's a horrible app, we need to get rid of it. And the response is always, delete the app and use the browser. That's what we hear, nonstop. That's all I've heard about it, is this app is so bad, delete it and use the browser. And we weren't hearing from people that were using the app and enjoying it, apparently, and I just assumed there were none. Now, we've lost the native app due to Facebook dropping these APIs, and all that we're hearing is how important this app is and how I use this app every day. This is one of those cases where those people that wanted the app and were using the app should have been loud all along. Perhaps Facebook would have cared more about those APIs if they would have heard the positive things from the people that were actually enjoying the app. Because I, for one, never heard anything positive about it.
Well, I suspect Facebook can get a pretty good idea of that with the app. They're probably tracking the traffic and identifying the traffic coming from BlackBerries and tracking it. Now, from that traffic, they can view the activity, and from that kind of guess that, well, you know, if they didn't like it, they wouldn't be using it. They'd be using the web. So, I don't know.
People who quit using the native app in favor of the web experience don't make those stats look any better to Facebook either.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. But I then begin to wonder, we talked about this private API versus the public APIs that Facebook is sending out. And one of the things that I noticed with the Facebook app was that it did not keep up with the new features that Facebook implemented into its system. So it seemed like a 5 or 6 year old experience of Facebook. And I wonder if it's more that Facebook didn't bother with the public APIs and keeping them up to date with all of their functionality. That's why a lot of people have then gone to the website, because you actually get your full functionality that's built into Facebook. Had Facebook perhaps kept those up, we might have seen a different experience on the app itself.
Yeah, fair comment.
The other thing also is that Facebook sees that more and more people, BlackBerry 10 users, are using the web page instead of the app. They don't know why.
Yep.
Could it be that just people prefer to run their apps in a browser, or is it just because the native app is crap? From the traffic, they wouldn't be able to know that. And in that case,
exactly right.
Brad was saying they should have spoken up. People should have spoken up and said, "Hey, this is." I mean, I can tell you, I lost count as to how many times I've contacted BB10 developers and let them know give them some ideas on how to improve the app. And people got to do that. Don't just say, "Oh, this app sucks," or "No, I don't like this because it has such and such, which I don't like. You know, screw it, I'm going to delete it," and then bitch about it on some website. Contact the developer. Let them know. Say, "Okay, this is great, but I don't like this part or that part. Could you please fix it?" You got to work with the developers. They can't read your mind.
And I got to admit, I for one am not a kind of person who would go, "Okay, well, here's an app. Here's something that we've been asked to use. It doesn't work for me, so I'm going to try and figure out how to get that functionality into it. If I can do something in another way, I'm just going to do it the other way." And I guess we live in that kind of a world where you're not. If you can do something another way and you can get to that point quicker than trying to get the function you've been given to work the way you want it to work, then we live in a world that wants that instant gratification. I've got to admit, I'm a victim of that in this instance, and have just gone with the solution that works for me. I just solve the problem and get on with it, rather than going, well, here's an issue. I need to work hard to get this solved, and then work at it, rather than saying, well, there's a solution over here, rather than this one over here. I'll just go over here. It's much easier. Maybe BlackBerry's given us far too many options to do what we need to do. I kid. I jest. No, they've done very well.
Well, I mean, BlackBerry users are used to that. We had, back when we were on BBOS, there were workarounds that we did for certain things. And when BB10 originally came out and we first got our Android player with, what was that, 10.2, I think, we had so many workarounds to get through these things. Now it's just a case of, well, we have so many different ways to do things. I mean, I guarantee you the way I use my passport is completely unlike the way any of you use your passport, and the way each of you use it is different, because there's just that many different ways to get around and do things. I mean, that's honestly one of the things that frustrates me so bad with the print. Mine has rounded corners and yours has an ugly bottom.
We've been there and done that. Come on now.
It's hip to be square.
Well, this is... Hey, good! Roy woke up. Sorry, Roy. We do a little thing here in the States called daylight savings time.
No, everyone does it. It's just that in the States you do it wrong.
Oh.
Part of the problem.
Well,
No,
metric
not
systems
not
and whatnot.
everybody does it. There's a province in Canada that has given the finger to daylight savings time.
And several in the states in the U.S.
Yeah.
don't follow it.
Yeah, Queensland doesn't do it either. So they're actually over near Darwin during daylight savings time. We just misplaced them.
Yeah. There's one comment I want to make to developers out there. We're talking from a user point of view. I think one thing that's frustrated me is when I go into BlackBerry world and I find an app and I want to send feedback to a developer and want to report either an issue or request some feature improvements, and I can't contact them. I'll go online and try and find them. I can't find them anywhere. Can't get an email address, Twitter handle, nothing. It's quite frustrating. So if all the developers out there, please allow users to contact you so we can give you the feedback so you can improve the app and hopefully get more users, more downloads.
Yep, happy
It is
user
interesting because
tells people about it. Definitely.
we know that the developer community itself has a reasonably robust dialoguing community, but yeah, I mean, if the general user can't get to you, then you're not going to get the feedback you need to develop a stellar app.
Yep. And some of the developers I contacted have implemented some features. So some of them at least do listen. In fact, everyone I've contacted has been really nice. They've been really nice. They haven't all implemented the features I requested. They have implemented some of them, so they're really nice.
Oh, good.
One of the things I wanted to go over on Chin's tweet and the Inside BlackBerry post was that this is the second time that I recall BlackBerry asking users for help. I'm trying to recall what the first time was.
It was about the reputation.
Yeah, there you go. It was reputation. It was at a public speaking event in there you go. And so the first time was, to help get BlackBerry's reputation back where it should be. This time it is specifically the hashtag #ILoveBB10apps. Get that to Facebook. I mean, this is something that obviously BlackBerry sees the need for. They want it. They've tried. Now they're asking us to help try.
Which
again,
makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense because developers go to developers, say, could you please develop this app for the users? Developer says, well, you don't have hardly any users compared to the others. So the solution is to get the users to speak out. Say, yes, we want your app on BB10. Then it makes it easier for BlackBerry to go up to them and say, look, we have these many users who want your app on BB10 native.
And all companies respond to that. Let's be honest, that's how I was able to get both Passport and PRIV to this country, is to get voices, different voices, saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. And eventually companies have to buckle and say, well, if that many people want it, then we've got a business case to do it. But we got a lot of responses on that particular one, didn't we, Brad?
We did, and that's kind of what I wanted to do this blogcast, because here's my thing. I have seen a big change in the community recently. Since the beginning of BlackBerry 10, there have been trolls that want to push the agenda that BlackBerry is dead and BlackBerry 10 is dead and we're all idiots for using it and we're stuck in the past, right? And we're used to that. And, we can pretty much ignore that. And if we're feeling really bored one afternoon, we can go fight that. But it's something that's been there all along, and we just know what these people are. What's bothering me now is that I'm seeing that same narrative being given by true BlackBerry fans. You know, these aren't trolls. These aren't people that want to see BlackBerry dead. These are people that want their phone. And they're now, I hate to say it, but falling prey to those people that are pushing this agenda. And I mean, I'll be real blunt. That agenda is coming from some of the loudest voices in the, quote, BlackBerry fan community. The reasons for it, I don't know. It's extremely frustrating, though. I mean, let's just call it like I see it. We have 2 updates coming this year. We know what those 2 OS updates are. We know what they're for. BlackBerry has told us what they are and what they're for, and what this means for the brand and the platform. And yet, there are voices in our community that are running other sites and other communities that continually, week after week, day after day, push that these are only maintenance updates, that these are patches. There's got to be a reason for it. I'm not going to pretend to know the reason for it, but what's really bothering me is that true BlackBerry fans that I have followed for years in the community, that I have seen across the various sites and the various BBM channels, are now believing it, and they're helping to push this agenda. And they're not doing it out of spite. They're not doing it out of malice. They're doing it out of fear, and this is what they believe is happening. So I really want those of us that still see the positive side to be able to, you know, alleviate those fears and the ones that just aren't seeing it anymore. I'll be honest, I emailed BlackBerry, was it yesterday, Dave? Day before?
Yep.
with those very thoughts, you know, and I'm not going to say it's going to make any sort of change, but I mean it's truly just bothersome that we're a small community. We're too small of a community. We're too small of a fan community to keep our company that we're fans of afloat. And there's proof of that. We've seen it over the years as BlackBerry's income has fallen and as BlackBerry almost disappeared. There's just not enough of us. And BlackBerry is going after a larger group of people now, a larger community, to be profitable again. And this small community of fans that we're all a part of could greatly help BlackBerry in reaching their goal. But what I'm seeing happen right now is actual damage. You know, it's one thing when you see BGR sitting there saying BlackBerry's dead, they don't care about their customers, they're gone. It means more when you start seeing known fans of BlackBerry and fan sites of BlackBerry saying the same thing. Those are the things that are picked up by others. And you know, I want to address that. I know there are many others in the community that feel like we do, that are excited about what BlackBerry's doing right now, that are happy that we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I want those voices to be the loud ones, as opposed to those that just can't see anything beyond Android. I've talked a lot. So anyway, my point was, I wanted to answer some of these comments that came up on our posts. I've answered a few in the comments, so I want to hear you guys and your points, and we didn't discuss these before. I don't know what you guys are going to say, but I picked out not even full comments, but just pieces of comments. And some of these pieces are from the same people. some people may recognize what they said, but I just want to hear what your guys' takes on them are. Is that cool?
I'm sure we could cope with that. And I guess
like I said,
I might as well jump in first because I spoke first. I see one of the confusions that we have is we tend to think that BlackBerry, being a consumer product, it's a consumer product, but it's a consumer product that is aimed at enterprise. We consumers benefit from that. I think we're a little too concerned about us, the fan base, being the savior, if you like, of BlackBerry. Well, that's not true. It is enterprises. It is the core market that is the savior of BlackBerry. BlackBerry know that, which is why they are talking about doing these updates this year, about keeping their security standings intact, because they are wanting to tell not us, but the business community that they are here for the long haul and that apps are important to the business community. We talked about the idea that Facebook can be used for business. If you're a business and you're hearing that BlackBerry has great solutions for Facebook and it's got great solutions for everything else, you're not going to jump to iPhone just because, while iPhone doesn't have anything else, it's got the great solutions for Facebook. BlackBerry 10, as I have said, is always important because it is the core business of BlackBerry in terms of its software. It develops everything around BlackBerry 10. Android is just something to say to the consumer, while we are chasing our core business, here are the solutions you're after. Here is what you want. We can give that to you, and we're going to focus on that this year. I love the fact that BlackBerry, while continuing to develop their business side, which you've got to have long-term vision for business. So it can't just be what's happening in the next 3 to 6 months. It's got to be what's happening the next year. What's happening in the next 2 years. What's going to happen in 2020. And BlackBerry, with its software solutions, with its mobile device solutions, with BlackBerry 10, that's what they're looking at. But what they're saying is 2016 is the year when we say to the consumer, guess what, we are thinking of you. We've got your wants and desires in mind, so we're going to provide you with something that will hopefully meet those while we are achieving our targets to make this company the success that it needs to be. And John Chan telling us to tweet that we love BlackBerry 10 apps is part of that, to say, okay, we've got your Android solution, we've got the holes that are perceived in our system. Now what we need you to do is to say, let's keep going with the experiment. Let's not look at 2016. Let's not look at 2017. Let's look at 2020 and see what we're going to be doing there. You've got to take that long-term and short-term vision, and I think one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of fans turn around is because they no longer look to the long term. They don't understand what the core business is about, and they are only looking to the 3 months, the 6 months. What's the next quarter going to bring? What's the next quarter going to bring? Rather than saying, well, let's look at a short term for what's happening now, but also how that fits into the long-term plan. I think people might be getting a little fatigued maybe, but BlackBerry's here to stay. I believe I wrote a piece about that. We're safe. It's done. We've just got to be able to see that long-term vision.
But before we get into the comments that I pulled from the site and channel, we got Aaron tweeted us that BlackBerry hasn't been ahead of the curve for apps. The developers are moving to Droid because of the shrinking BB10 market share. And then the second one, if carriers supported BB10, then I would have stayed on that platform. Priv is the best compromise of BlackBerry and Droid, in my opinion. Comments?
It's certainly the best compromise.
Dave, you've always got something to say.
Well, I was going to hop on to what Chap was saying there. And one of the trends I'm seeing is that people are starting to, and or have been for the last little while, and or it's getting it worse, they're starting to get on Chen's case. And let me tell you something, you know, John Chen and or BlackBerry didn't kick your dog, didn't steal your car, didn't ruin your day. That's, you know, John Chen's job is to turn the company around, not take things away from you personally and make you have a bad day. It's about making the company survive and turn it into a profitable business, which it was not before. And if you'd kept doing what you were doing before, it would have been gone by now. So wake up and smell the coffee. Give John Chen a pat on the back. Be happy that he's made these changes. And like Chap said, you know, we're getting some of the consumer aspects of a BlackBerry phone with the likes of a Priv and possibly another unit soon there. And all of these things put together are going to be able to, and I'm betting that April 1st or the next call is going to be not a bad one. I'm kind of expecting some positive news. That's just me. And that you know, we've stayed the course on our comments here, and I still believe what we said you know, a year ago or whatever. I haven't changed. I haven't faltered from that. We need to do what is happening, what has happened. We need to do it because that's how we're going to survive and grow. And just because Facebook went away yesterday doesn't mean it's not going to come back tomorrow. You wanna go ahead and go. But to me, you know, it's steady the course. The right things are being done. We got the right guy at the helm. I don't care what the naysayers say. You know, and I'm looking forward to increased stock prices. Personally, it's yeah. I'll shut up.
But I think we do need to address what Aaron said. Oh, sorry, Erica, you go for it.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that the consumers, whether they're fans or foes of BlackBerry, are being incredibly myopic. And to reflect back on what you were saying, Chap, about the long-term goals of BlackBerry and the business solutions and enterprise solutions, I think that they need to understand that BlackBerry is not consumer-driven. It is working on making itself a viable company again. And they need, and to bring that into Aaron's comment, the developers are consumer-driven. And if they are moving, it's because they need to move where that money's going, or where that revenue is going to be. And I think that they need to understand that they need to stop being that myopic front. They need to look at those long terms. They need to get into their heads that it is more of a business and less of a retail outlet.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. To be perfectly honest, that was far better than how I was going to explain it.
Aaron also just threw up something that I know that we all run into, and he says, I run into a lot of people who I work with that have a bad taste of BlackBerry. It's hard to convince them that BlackBerry phones are better. I deal with that every day.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Yep.
Brush up on your sales skills. That's all I got to say.
He works in retail, doesn't he? Anyway. I also think what I've noticed is you mentioned the word BlackBerry and people go, and that they shy away. But once you actually say, okay, here's a Passport, or here's a Priv, or here's a Classic, they're like, holy cow, that's a BlackBerry? Really? And I've seen a lot of people suddenly go, well, hey, you know what? This thing that I've been carrying around for the last little while, which is a very small incremental upgrade of the one that I had before that, this is boring, ugly. It's not functional. Yeah, if I could get the apps for that phone that you're holding, I'd be all over that sucker. And that's where it comes down to. I think we're chicken and egging here. People are going to jump when they see the apps, but the apps won't come unless people jump. I've convinced a few people to take that plunge, and they have not regretted it. But that's not a vast majority. It's not, which is the big shame here. I think it is chipping away at that perception. This is a long-term strategy, and again, we don't have people who are long-term thinkers, which makes it difficult to keep pushing this argument.
There are certain things that we can do too that I know those of us in our group anyway, we know what our phones can do that their phones can't do. And personally, I enjoy showing those things off. You know, go up to an Android user and show them YouTube operating as you minimize it and do something else. And this is funny to me too, because here's the thing, Android can actually do that. What is it, the Firefox browser can play YouTube in the background as you're doing other things. Android users don't know that. Someone posted in our group today, was it Android Central or Android Headlines, one of those websites.
Android Authority.
Android Authority was posting a workaround so that this may work sometimes if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
and I
don't
think
even
you had
know
to
that
use
you can do
you had
it.
to use Chrome, and you had to use an extension, and you had to wear a red sweater on a rainy Thursday as you faced north or something stupid shit like that.
And the sad part is all that is written by the same company. The company that develops Android also develops YouTube and the app.
Yeah.
But
It's pathetic.
apparently Android Authority isn't much of an authority.
Or something. Yeah.
Robert, here's a good question. Why shouldn't I give up on BlackBerry?
Why shouldn't you?
Well, Mike, I'd actually answer that with a question. Why are you considering? You know, what are your needs? I mean, I wouldn't. If you got I don't know, a teenager who just wants to play the latest games, then no, you probably don't. I wouldn't recommend a BlackBerry. Certainly not a Passport. It's not for everybody. So you know, I can't tell you if the BlackBerry is suitable for him unless he tells me what he needs.
Yeah, that's right. Use case is everything, and for me, primarily, use case is communications of you know. First of all, I'm a phone guy, so it's got to be a good phone, and BlackBerry makes the best phone. And then, of course, you've got texting and my VoIP apps and things of that nature. So it has to be a good communications tool, and BlackBerry makes the best radios, and that's one of the reasons I love it.
I can answer it real quick. And this is actually something that I was going to answer one of the canned comments with, and it's that comment that we made a T-shirt out of. My BlackBerry can kick your phone's ass. It's that simple. It really is. I don't care what phone there is. I'm going to turn my camera back on for this. I don't care what phone it is. Bring us the new iPhone, the new S7. You know, I don't plan on dunking my phone in a cup of coffee, and so far that's the only thing I can see that S7 can do that my BlackBerry can't do. And my BlackBerry can do it better. And people are like, oh, but we don't have the new bells and whistles. I'm sorry. This phone performs better. It just does. So if BlackBerry's to the point to where they can focus on making their Android phone up to par and let this phone that outperforms all of its competitors just let it be for a little while until they can, be profitable, I'm okay with that. Because I've got a phone that outperforms all of my friends' phones.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you get an iPhone with that what is it? It's a cover with the hideous extra battery on it. That phone actually looks like it has an ass to kick.
Huge ass.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to respond to this in what I think is a more positive way. Why shouldn't you give up on BlackBerry? simply because BlackBerry hasn't given up on you. One of the things that is happening at BlackBerry is they are building a company that is for everybody, and I think that's the whole cross-platform approach. They are building solutions for everybody. What do you get with BlackBerry? You get choice. If you're not a physical keyboard person, you can buy a non-physical keyboard phone. If you're a phablet person, you can buy a phablet. If you're a physical keyboard person, you can buy a couple of physical keyboard phones. If you need Android apps, you can either install them so long as they don't need Google Play services on your BlackBerry phone, or you can buy a priv for that Android ecosystem. Why not? Why would you give up on BlackBerry when BlackBerry does what others don't, and that is offer you the options to meet your needs? Why give up on BlackBerry? Why shouldn't you give up on BlackBerry? Simply because BlackBerry has not given up on you. They are looking at you. They are looking at your needs. They want to meet them, not just chuck out the next slightly more improved operating system or slightly more improved processor so that your desire for stats in your hardware is going to be met. That's my positive response.
They're still the only company that's a mobile phone maker that's actually asked users what it is they want to see in their phone and the platform. And I know when they had their I Can Make It Better site going, they implemented a lot of those features that people submitted. Has Apple ever done that?
No.
How do you get contact Google to request a feature?
They already know what you want. You don't want a headphone jack. That's what you don't want.
Well, Steve Jobs is famous for saying, "We tell users what they want."
Yes.
That's what he didn't do a market analysis. It's the only company that actually asks you, and by asking you, there's no gesture or no action that can prove more that they actually care about what you want than to come out and ask you to create that site, to have so many of these admins, these employees, go through all those feature requests, and it was tons of them that are coming daily, and a lot of them are repeats. They wouldn't spend that money at a time when they're short on money. They're tight on resources. Yeah. Short on money is not a good word, but tight on resources. They wouldn't do that if they didn't care about what you wanted. If they're not implementing your feature now, it's probably because they just don't have the resources. It's not the highest priority, or they have something else better in the pipeline. It takes patience. You got to be patient. It's not going to happen next month, 2 months. You got to wait.
Which is what I was saying about longevity. And it's interesting that you make that comment, that what Steve Jobs said. It actually reminded me, some BlackBerry site a few years ago, when it was actually pro-BlackBerry, did a mock-up of the Avengers theme. And it's quite interesting that, because what Steve Jobs said about we tell you what you want is exactly what Loki said in the Avengers movie. You desire freedom from freedom. You long to be subjugated, all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
BlackBerry wants to give you choices. It doesn't want to tell you what you want or need. It wants to say, well, let you tell me what you want and need, and we'll try and work with that. There are great positives for sticking with BlackBerry. Why should we? Because BlackBerry has not forgotten us.
Let's get to some of these canned comments, because I want to hear Roy and Erica speak. So,
you want to hear me?
Yes.
So I'll give you my analogy to why I keep with BlackBerry. My last year Mercedes is still better than your newly Mazda 2. If you want to compare it, BlackBerry to Samsung, whatever phones they make. My Passport will be still better than Samsung Galaxy 8 or LG G7 or whatever. Those companies build phones for 1 year, 2 years, and they're laggy, very laggy phones. BlackBerry built phones for long run, like the strategy. and not something that you need to replace every year or go to a lab to fix that or fix that. So that's why I keep with my BlackBerry, because it's Mercedes. If you like cars.
AMG, baby.
Yeah.
Let me read a comment here, and I want to hear Erica's response. Are you awake, Erica?
I'm awake, and I've been talking. So you can cut it.
As I said, these are parts of comments that I'm taking out. So this is in response to something else that was said. And it says, that doesn't mean BlackBerry should be rewriting the OS every year. In fact, it's clear that BlackBerry customers are satisfied with minor additions and changes. But Mr. Chen should not expect to buy the allegiance of their customers by providing nothing.
Like I said earlier, that's my myopic. He doesn't provide nothing. He offers us insight into what he's working on. And he shows us what he has when he's ready to show it to us. And it takes patience. It takes time. You have to let it cook a little longer so that it's perfect when it comes out.
Yeah, we don't want BlackBerry 11 coming out with 9 fingers.
Warts and all.
That's right. We've entered into a world that is very microwave oriented. Why bake a cake in an hour when you can have it in 10 minutes?
Because it tastes better in the oven.
Agreed.
That's a rational reason.
Why does Grandma's roast always taste better? Because she takes the time to make it right.
Yeah.
Buy BlackBerry, the grandma's roast of phones.
Yeah, that whole comment about Chen not giving users nothing is a bunch of BS. I mean, he's already announced the R. I mean, we've known for many months now about the 10.33, 10.34. He said that the next one's going to have security and privacy features, but we know from the past that those will be just the main features. When they announce what's going to be in the next release, they never list all of it. They give you the big ones, the main ones, and there are a lot of little tweaks that show up in these small in every release we've had so far that were not mentioned as upcoming features. So I'm expecting that it's going to be predominantly security and privacy, but you're going to have a lot of little tweaks there as well.
Yeah, the what is it? The NIHA, the NIAH, or I forget what the acronym is, but it's another and higher level of security compliance that that BlackBerry needs to maintain and increase its penetration into government and Fortune 500s, and the larger banks and things like that. It's got to happen. They are the leader in that area, and they have to maintain it.
And to be honest, BB10 isn't missing major features. I can't think, if I think back to all the ideas people have posted about what they'd like to see, I did not see anything major missing from BB10. I'm not talking about stuff that appears in the apps. That's different. It's basically just small stuff, tweaks.
You know what I see? I saw that Android M, the next Android OS, will show first time answer to WhatsApp or whatever from the message, from the notification. And man, we have it like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
How many years? That's why John Chen. It's not that they don't show us nothing. What can he else? What he can else show us? BlackBerry 10 OS is the most evolved OS, the best OS. What can he show us next?
Yeah, it is. I think there's still fewer than 3% adoption rate on Marshmallow, And I think I was seeing somewhere some pre-release of N, so Nougat or whatever the heck that is next after Marshmallow.
Nutella. It will be Android Nutella, I think.
Yeah,
Nutella?
and that actually has some decent multitasking in it with some split windows and things like that. You know, as you know, as far as BlackBerry is concerned, was welcome to 2013.
I was going to say, do you mean the Work Wide app?
Yeah, or something. You know, it's welcome to 2013.
I wonder if the YouTube app on Android doesn't play in the background because Google wants you to watch the ads.
Possibly. But hey, so speaking of welcome Aaron, who was tweeting us a few minutes ago.
Ah,
Howdy, Aaron.
Welcome.
G'day, Aaron.
Aaron.
How you doing?
Good. Where are you
Very
at?
well. How are you?
Doing good. I'm in Southeast Michigan.
Right
Oh,
on.
another American. Yay.
Yep. I was sitting here just actually working on my channel post for the night. So.
Yeah, you run a few channels, right?
Yeah, just a few. I run the big one. I run is This Just In News. You know, if you want some real news, go there.
Yeah, right on.
Walking Dead, and
So-
a few other ones.
Yeah. That's my show. I refuse to join that channel because I can't have spoilers.
Just don't go to the spoiler channel. That's all. I think of everyone.
Did you want to jump in, add some comments to what we had already? Because I know that you were commenting through Twitter faster
Yeah,
than I
I
can
know.
read them.
I was trying to comment as fast as you were talking, actually. I guess the way I look at the way BlackBerry's been for since I had a torch. I had a curve, but since I had a torch, the promise of BB10 was out there, and I kept saying, get this, get a playbook. I got my sister a playbook. I got a playbook. My son's got a playbook, and I said, they're going to keep updating this. This is going to be great. And then we got one upgrade, and then they were supposed to do something else, and they killed that off. Well, here we go with BB10. We're going to get upgrades. We're going to get upgrades. I got a Z10, so I carried 3 batteries, a charger, battery charger, the whole works. And I was on T-Mobile, so I was already orphaned right off the get-go. And I didn't want to go back to a classic. They didn't come out with a passport. I was just out there. So I went to a priv when T-Mobile went to it. It's hard to sell somebody a BlackBerry when, like today, I talked to my boss, or one of my bosses actually. I said, well, here's a BlackBerry priv. And he's like, oh, I used to have a BlackBerry, but it was crappy and all this. Well, I said, no, this is better. And he's like, no, I like my iPhone. It's all so much better than what BlackBerry is. I'm like, no, BlackBerry is not the same. But you can't, like I said in the comments, you can't change people's minds now. They've got a bad taste in their mouth. They've drank in the apple juice or the Kool-Aid or however you want to put it. And it's the end of it. You can't change their minds. For as much as I try to pry it out of their hands, it doesn't.
But I mean, that's where we come in as fans, and that's where our small fan community can actually make a difference. We're not going to keep BlackBerry alive, but we can change other people's impression of BlackBerry. And I think just having the priv in all of the American carriers is having a huge impact right now. I'm not getting a BlackBerry anymore. Now I'm getting is that a BlackBerry? I've seen a huge difference, and I mean, I'm stuck between Google and Apple land here.
Well, I'm stuck in the same spot. I work in construction, and the biggest phone to hand out is an iPhone, and the biggest problem guys out in the field have are with iPhones. But you try to show them a priv, and if we're on, I don't think Sprint's got the priv, do they? I don't remember seeing Sprint having the priv.
I don't think so either, no.
No, but I don't really consider them a carrier either.
Well, they used to be. I have another name for Sprint, but I don't know if I can say it right now.
Let Dave say it.
Well, I have a better name for them because when Nextel bought Sprint, I call them Sextel because I got screwed over on my phones. But the whole thing is that if you got a company based in, you don't have a company, they say, well, we buy Verizon phones, we buy AT&T phones, we buy Sprint phones. They buy them from one carrier. So if they're stuck with one carrier and they say, well, just give us this phone, give us the cheapest phone you got, the first thing to do is throw everyone an iPhone. It just seems like that's the go-to, well, they call it a smartphone, but we know it isn't. But they just throw them that phone. They're not looking at giving them even a low-class Droid half the time. They're just in BlackBerry. Like I said, yeah, we do hear, oh, well, is that the new BlackBerry? But like when I got my phone from T-Mobile, I was the first one to get one, and they only had 3 of them in the store, which is impressive. They had 3, but for as many times as I went hunting down for a Z10, I could only find 1 at the time. So I guess them having 3 versus having 1, they've tripled the number, I guess. But my whole point is I keep rooting for BlackBerry because I know they're about security. I know they're about having a good quality phone. The problem is you can't, I could beat the drums, and I'm not going to say the company. I know that. They're saving their own selves. The whole point is, do they want to chase after the consumers? Do they want to sell more phones to these people?
I don't think they should be chasing after the consumers. I don't think they should. When I bought my first BlackBerry, it was not a consumer phone. I didn't want it because it was a consumer phone. I wanted it because it was a business phone. And it made me feel like a man. No, but it definitely made me feel cool.
What did you feel like before? Should we check into your history?
I was just a wee little puppet. But
it's all right. UTB only makes enough money to cover Brad's psychiatry expenses.
And it's not working.
Help.
But I mean, you mentioned your Z10 and all that. This is actually, I've given up on reading these comments now. But one of the comments that I got earlier this week was somebody saying that BlackBerry's given up on us, and we're not going to get any further updates. And it's think for a minute. That Z10 that you were talking about is still getting updates. It's still getting support from BlackBerry. What was the equivalent Samsung phone that came out the same time? Was it the S4?
I think, or an S3, wasn't it? Wasn't there an S3 about that time?
It may have been an S3. Well, I can tell you the S4s aren't getting updates.
No.
Well, the only thing with being on T-Mobile is that we got it orphaned because of the disruption between Chen and whatever his name is at T-Mobile.
Leger.
And so we didn't get updates on the OS. And considering that's my only phone, and I'm not rich by any means, I wasn't about to play with the OSs. I wasn't about to do bootloaders and all this and that because I've done it once and it was kind of scary because I watched my phone sit there for about a day and a half, kind of not work. So
a day and a half?
Well, it was damn close because I sat there. It was like April Fool's Day, and it kind of really, it made a fool out of me. But I really just kind of stayed away from it because I'm like, unless I get an official over-the-air update, I'm not messing with this. This is my only communication device. I can't brick this phone because if I do, T-Mobile's going to look at me and go, oh, well, what do we got? And at the time, they weren't talking to BlackBerry. Now I've got it sitting off the, in my bedroom. I could go play with it, I guess, but, I got my crib here and it's doing fine.
I think you make a very valid point, Aaron. A lot of it comes down to the carrier relations, doesn't it? Really,
yeah.
Because people are going to be more inclined to go to their carrier. We have the same problem here in Australia. Our Aussie group is riddled with discussions of Telstra versus Optus versus Vodafone. I just keep reminding them who stocks BlackBerry, and of course Optus wins out in that regard. But nevertheless, it's not as easy to just drop your chip and jump ship. I should be a poet. It's not,
No.
and companies as well. Companies can't just do that. They can't just take their business contracts and say, well, sod you, we're going somewhere else if you're not going to provide us with the hardware we want. So really what we want to see, and I think rather than the features, rather than the updated specs, rather than even the apps, I think what we are yearning to see as BlackBerry fans is the carrier relationships built back up, so that carriers are on fire for BlackBerry.
Yeah,
and I think from my perspective, that's what we've seen in Australia, that the only way to get BlackBerry moving is to get the carriers on board with the company.
Yeah, and I think we've seen
kind of
that start to happen with the Priv, right?
Yeah.
The Priv is the first phone in 3 years that carriers pretty much en masse, hey, I should be French, have wanted to carry, they've wanted to sell, and are starting to be successful with it, and they're advertising it and promoting it. I mean, I realize I'm in the land o' plenty as far as BlackBerry goes in Canada, but you turn on a TV, you're watching a sports event, and a carrier commercial will come on, and there's a Priv in your face. So,
land of plenty no syrup.
Sorry.
Let me ask across the board. Let me get everyone here. If the Priv had BB10 on it instead of Android, do you think all the carriers would have picked it up?
No.
No. Zero. T-Mobile would have just abandoned it. I don't think they would have even touched it at this point.
I know Canadian carriers, they would have had it, and it might have been on a shelf in the back, but they would have it. And Rogers, as an example, who I think it was the Z30, they weren't going to carry it, and they just got raked over a pole. And then they finally decided to carry it just because of, the great unwashed was upset with this. So
TELUS has been good.
TELUS has been pretty steady. Yeah.
Yeah, they supported the Passport right up there up front with the other phones, not tossed in the corner. They've been pretty good.
Yeah, as much as they
Well, we're
me
getting
off in some
a lot
other
of.
regard. I still get my phones from them because of that.
I think.
What we're getting a lot of right now are people angry that we've got 2 Android phones coming out this year. They're angry about that, and that they're angry that we're not having a BlackBerry 10 phone. And that's where we're getting people literally saying John Shen is screwing me over. They lied to us. Those are the comments that we're getting. But we all just said that none of our carriers would have picked up a BB10 Priv, or at least none of the Americans would. Dave's got syrup, but we.
A hockey puck.
I think this is the year where BlackBerry. It is the year of Android. It just is, and they're going to rebuild their name with these Android phones. And I said this before. I've actually said this a lot of times. I don't know of any BlackBerry people that are sitting around excited about making Android phones. I really don't. Like anyone that we've spoke to, they still love their BlackBerry 10. And, we got to see Chen tweet that yesterday, that he still uses one every day.
Well, the point with that is
we need to understand
seriously,
that BlackBerry's doing what's necessary.
Yeah, they are. And let's face it, there's a certain amount, and I'm going to call it a fairly large amount of pride associated with creating your own operating system from the ground up and watching it grow and turn into the mature thing that is BlackBerry 10.3.2, soon to be .3, and you are in control of your own destiny. So See you, Bartron. When you're in control of your own destiny, software and hardware-wise, there's a little more chest you can puff out, a little more head you can hold high. And so it feels like a punch in the solar plexus running somebody else's operating system. But again, we said it before, it's a necessary thing right now to appease 2 or 3 things. All of the people that want a BlackBerry or that want a keyboard or that want all the apps. Here's your piece of satisfaction here. Any enterprise that wants that needs to run specific apps or whatever. Well, here's your secure piece of equipment that runs those apps that isn't going to fall prey to the silly rootability issues that other Android systems could suffer. So they're satisfying a lot of things, a lot of companies and a lot of consumers with this move, and I'm really looking forward to more on the BlackBerry 10 road. Like you say, Brad, maybe not this year, so probably not this year.
But isn't BlackBerry coming out with that Marshmallow update supposedly end of this quarter, which I'm still holding my breath because end of this quarter is coming up really quick. And then I seen a rumor it's moving to May. Now, we're following in the same path we've had before with this. All of a sudden, things are moving again. The deadline. I don't know how this works.
I can assure you that my friend is already on Marshmallow beta, at least in Israel. So BlackBerry need to be sure that this OS is still secure as the 5.1.1.
Yes.
And as far as what I saw, there are a lot of improvements. Especially in the hub, and we will see it, I think, in the end of March. This is what I think, or beginning of April.
Yeah, we sort of went over this, I think maybe last time or whatever, but the important thing is, and the thing that people have to remember is that it has to be baked, the security has to be baked in properly. And they're not going to let this out if it's not right. If it's not, hey, I want some. Anyway.
So we'll come back here.
Come back here. Spread some of that around. Come on.
I was told to be quieter.
Okay, now where the hell was I? They're not going to let it out until it's baked properly, right?
Yeah.
So it's every consumer, every kid wants their toy now. Everybody wants it now. But it's not going to happen until it is done properly, and because BlackBerry can't afford to bring it out with a hole in it. So everybody has to take a little bit of a chill pill, and it will come. And if it's a week and a half late, I don't care, as long as it's right.
Yeah, and honestly, BlackBerry has been very good on the deadlines recently.
Yes, they have.
Since Chin has really taken his place, they've been meeting all of those deadlines, and more importantly, the deadlines that matter the most, which are the financials. They've been beating those deadlines.
I'm not going to fight that. I agree with that, but it's just it seemed like when it was BB10, there was always this promise of stuff, and it fell back. Chen has done better.
Yes, he has. Yeah, thank you for saying that, because there's too many people out there saying that Chen's got to go, he's lying to us, and blah 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 blah. And
Chen needs to stick around and buy a few more security companies and really make BlackBerry the go-to for all these companies. I mean, if Google figures out that BlackBerry is the one to go to for all security, can you imagine what's going to happen? I mean, there won't be no Flapgate going on or nothing like that,
Yeah.
No, that's Apple.
I'm going to call somebody out because I've I've invited him on the blogcast several times, and he says he's coming, but then he always comes back with some simple excuse as to why he won't. And then he's very, very public in his inane hatred of Chin. I'm talking about Nico, who used to be one of the guys that ran N4BB. He will attack and trash Chin every chance he gets. I've invited him on the blogcast. He's still welcome to come on the blogcast and give his reasons for it. I would love to be able to have an actual conversation instead of a Twitter war with him about it. But this is what's happening. His argument is that Chin is lying. Chin is lying about everything that he's saying because he thinks it. Everything that Chin has said, he's come through with. And everything that we're seeing, you know, Chin has said that we are committed to BlackBerry 10. And you look at Inside BlackBerry, we all read Inside BlackBerry blogs here. And at a time that they are pushing and promoting and trying to sell this priv, we're still getting profiles of people that are using passports. Just this last week, we got a profile of one person. I forget which one it was, but I remember it stuck out in my head that he flat out said in his profile that a priv wasn't for him because he doesn't like Android. On the Inside BlackBerry blog. You know, so Chin has said that they're committed to BB10, that they're offering a choice, and they're still promoting both these platforms as well as BlackBerry can promote. You know, I mean that's still an area that they need some drastic improvement in. But we're seeing a lot of people attacking Chin and calling him a liar and saying he's selling BlackBerry out and blah 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 with absolutely no proof. That's exactly why I wanted to get Nico on here. Nico, if by some chance you're watching, and I doubt you are, but more than likely somebody will tell you, and then you'll end up watching this in the next few days. You still have me on BBM. Join us next week. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll give you a chance.
Well, I find a lot of these, what they used to call BlackBerry fan sites, seem like they're a lot of click and bait headlines nowadays, and they're not really fans anymore. They find it's more money to make controversy than it is to be a fan.
You just touched on one of the primary reasons there is a UTB.
Well, I know. I follow you guys. I might not be on the forums, but I do follow you guys. I know a few of you.
Well, get your ass on the forums.
I thought there was somebody in my rearview mirror this morning.
I'm following you.
Sorry, Dave. I usually wait for you to get to work before I go through your trash cans.
And in the next 2 weeks, we'll have the other two people that watch the blogcasts on.
Damn it, chap! I warned you about that.
That's no fair. I wasn't going to bring it up, and then he did. Damn it. Stole my routine.
But I think you're right. There is more money to be made out of clickbait, and Chen has been called a liar or at least mistrusted since he took the helm. There have been right from the get-go people saying that BlackBerry aren't doing something simply because Chen has said it. And that's what we've seen this week as well. We've seen people turning around and basically looking at Chen's tweet and saying, there you go, proof positive that this is not happening, that Chen has said it. It seems that there's almost a catharsis which comes with distrusting the person who is talking BlackBerry. And we've made absolutely no bones that we will trust what BlackBerry says over and above the rumor mill that comes around in the so-called fan community. There's something almost wrong when a community mistrusts the person called to spearhead or bring back the company even before they've been given a chance to do what they've been put in there to do.
Well,
do you want me to put on my tinfoil hat and give you my reason as to why I think that's happening?
What would happen if we said
Only if you put on a literal tinfoil hat.
He's got it in the corner.
I may have to unwrap a steak to do that. Have some meat juice running down my head. That sounds even worse than I meant it.
What?
that is so disgusting?
You just didn't take away our Dave's trash?
Oh
We
my
just
God.
lost Erica. Okay. I've had my thoughts. We've all said it in our BBM group. We've thought this before. I have a very simple reason why I think some of these sites are distrustful and whatnot. It's because they used to get information, they're not getting it anymore. I mean, you just look at this last week. We've never been a leaking site. You know, we don't leak information. We purposely do not do that. The people that we know, we're not pillaging them for answers and trying to get information out of them. We would prefer them keep their jobs and continue making the products that we love, as opposed to having the most clicks that day because we were the first to post an image of a phone that may or may not come out. But this last one, I keep going back to it just because I find it funny because we don't do that. But we were talking about Facebook 2 weeks ago. None of these other guys did. I think that's fairly good proof that their contacts are gone, right?
Yeah.
You know? So they're angry. What got them in the position that they're in, they don't have anymore, and it's Chen's fault. And I think they're lashing out, or at least allowing the lashing out to take place on fan sites. If example, go look at any section of comments on any post at Crackberry. Just go read through the comments, and then take one of those comments and direct it towards Apple, and go and try and make that comment at iMore and see how fast your comment is deleted and you've been banned. It's that simple. Do it. Try it. I dare you.
I can't go to an Apple site. It makes me sick to my stomach. I just can't do it. iMore. What a name. iMore? I'm sorry. No offense to him, but come on. To be honest with you, I see people with those Apple phones. This clickbait stuff. What's funny is every time you guys post like a story about like the malware or the reset of the iPhones, you can brick the phone. I'll post it on Facebook, and I just have it on friends. I don't have it on public stuff. But people just still defend that iPhone like it's nobody's business, like they can't do no wrong. And yet, iPhone is the most flawed phone out there, in my opinion. But
I fully admit
don't tell anyone that.
Don't
tell anyone that
about iPhone. I fully admit to clickbait headlines on iPhone. I do that. But all the information
revenue then.
That's the point.
I think even before like this, before Chen, there people were getting these other sites were getting a bad taste in their mouth, I think, and they were just not being supportive. N4BB, I had another name for them, but there was a few other ones out there. And before Crackberry, Kevin kind of went off the rails and all that too. I mean, it just seemed like their loyalty just disappeared all of a sudden. And I don't know if it was just because they weren't making money yet selling, being a fan or not. But I think that was part of it, just not being fans.
I'll trash Crackberry any day of the week to anybody, but I will say that since Kevin left and Blaze took over, their front page articles, there's been a vast improvement. There really has. I will give Blaze credit for that. There has been. Now, yeah. I'd like to see that same improvement take some sort of effect within those forums that I really, truly believe is extremely detrimental to BlackBerry. And I've said this, Dave, you were there. I've said this to Blaze before. Me and Blaze were in a group at one point, and that was the issue. That was before there was UTB. That was when we were begging them to clean up those forums and stop damaging BlackBerry. And it didn't happen, and we started this little fun thing. So again, I do think he's made a vast improvement to the front page. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And let's face it, human nature. Human nature, you know, you get somebody with a big mouth or someone who has a large post count. I think Chap touched on this before. Yeah, whatever, and they start being negative. Well, you just watch. You know, you could hand out the pitchforks and hand out the torches. Okay, that didn't come out right. Flaming sticks, right? And because now everybody's vibrating at the incorrect frequency, just like this guy. And because it's fun to be angry, it's fun to be the mob. And pile on and you know, be negative. It's a human nature thing, and that's what's happening. One guy says something nasty, and then everybody else picks up the pitchforks and the flaming sticks, and away you go. And it's messy every effing day.
We're running pretty long, and Robert, our site admin, is crying like a baby because I'm ignoring his question. So let's finish up with one question, and let's hear Aaron, Erica, and Roy. Let's hear their answers because Brad, Chap, and Dave have spoken entirely too much. His question was, how do we think it would have been different if John Chen had introduced BB10 as opposed to Heinz?
Ladies first.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus. I can't really answer that. I really didn't follow BlackBerry news very much back when Heinz was CEO. I was a fan and a user, but I really didn't follow the trends with how he was doing. So I really can't answer that other than to say that it would be better because I know he was terrible.
Yeah, it's very difficult question. Very difficult. I don't think I can answer it. I think the question needs to be why Lazaridis didn't introduce BlackBerry 10 a year after they bought QNX. So this is the question that I will.
Well, they were smart enough to get it on the roadmap and get the playbook out on a QNX-based OS and lay the groundwork. They were smart enough to get the ball rolling. They just left.
Aaron, your voice has changed.
I don't know what that is. That was me controlling him. What's for Dave Werdo talking over there? I think that if it was Chen running BlackBerry back then, we would have seen a whole different aspect. I think we would have seen a little more, maybe a little more push to get the phones right before they got out. I think my Z10 wasn't perfect, and the 10.01 or 10.1 it was better. I was stuck on 10.2, but Lazarus should have gotten QNX up on a phone way before he did. He did get it on the roadmap. The playbook was a misstep, in my opinion. Yes, it was a test bed, but if Chen would have been involved, I think there would have been less model phones out and be more focus on getting a couple phones out with more security out there. That's what he's been doing, is buying up security. I think maybe BlackBerry would still be, in the hunt. Maybe we would have like the bigger apps behind us. Facebook would still be behind us. WhatsApp, What's Crap, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of little apps that I don't use, but I know other people do. And because it wasn't on BlackBerry anymore, or at all, forget it. I'm not going to sideload it. Why am I going to spend all that time? So I think if Chen would have been there, maybe the development of those relations would have been better.
That's interesting. I'm going to take a slightly different tack on that. And I'm going to say that we have in John Chen the absolute best possible guy you'd ever want to have to turn a company around. And I don't really know because I haven't seen him try and do this, but I don't think he's a technology visionary. I think he's a company, he's the kind of guy that can turn around a company, turn it into being a success. Let's face it, he didn't know anything really about mobile technology when he started with BlackBerry. And if he were in that position when BlackBerry 10 was, just before it rolled out or whatever, he would have been, I don't know what he would have been. I think he's a better CEO than Heinz is or was in general. But his forte is turning something around and making it profitable, not for being a mobile visionary. Would it have been better? Yeah,
I have
maybe.
even a different
I'd say
take
so.
here.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to crap on Thor. He did a lot of things that nobody would want to have to do, and he did it. He did the layoffs, he did the cutbacks, he did a lot of the dirty work, and it's stuff nobody would want to, and I'm sure it was hard on him, and he did it. So I mean, he did his job. But where I think the biggest difference would have been with Chin or what I think the biggest difference between those two is that Thor was polite. He allowed this stuff to happen. We saw the biggest damage done to the BlackBerry name with him, and it's because there were, I think, planned and thought out and purposeful attacks on BlackBerry that he allowed to happen and didn't respond to. Whereas Chin takes the fight right back to them. Yep. He's standing up for BlackBerry. He's fighting for BlackBerry. He's correcting misinformation. We've seen the fact check come out since then. We've seen Chin come back and make additional statements and blog posts and everything he has to do when things are taken out of context and twisted. We just saw it again this week. He has completely changed the attitude of BlackBerry, and I think that more than anything is necessary for BlackBerry's turnaround. I love the Z10. I think the initial BlackBerry 10 phones with their flaws on their first little batch was still amazing for a first generation phone. Look how many people are still using them. Tons. I mean, that is a great, they were great phones, and I think even that first gen with their resets and their poor battery and all that fun stuff were still better than the competition at that time. But I think that Worston didn't protect the company's name, whereas Chen would have and is doing now.
That's a fair comment about him taking the fight back, and I lump that in with part of being really good at turning something around, getting the message out, turning it around. Somebody calling you out, you respond. Somebody's saying something wrong or stupid or outright bullshit. You call them out. You tell them what's right. He is very good at that. Kudos.
Well, Dave knows when we started, because Dave was one of the first. He was founding father here. When we started, the biggest trash that we got talked against us was that we were rude. We needed to be polite. We weren't handling ourselves professional because we were out there correcting misinformation. And we were rude, and we did a lot of things that we shouldn't have done, if we wanted to be taken serious. I'm not standing by that at all, but at the same time, we were fans sticking up for our brand. And Chin is doing the same thing, and BlackBerry is now doing that under Chin. And I think all fans should be doing that. Now, do I think that, we should be getting out there in Twitter wars like we used to do? No, that's ignorant. It's stupid. We shouldn't be doing it. But we should be standing up for BlackBerry, and what I say last night, we should be cheerleaders, not critics.
Fair enough. And just to correct you, I think I'm more of a floundering father.
Well, you are in a band, Dave. That's what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, should we call it for the night?
Yes, exit stage left.
We're sorry, Roy, that we started early. Blame it on the United States. And Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having me
that was
back.
Maybe we'll have you
And
on
Erica,
again.
thanks for actually talking tonight.
You're welcome.
Yay, for turning the microphone on.
Hit me up anytime. I'll be happy to join in. I'll throw my 2 cents in.
We don't have pennies up here in
We'll take
Canada
4.
anymore.
Well, give me a nickel.
Yeah, that's the lowest. That's as low as we go. It's as low as we go as a buffalo.
All right, let's say good night.
Beaver. What?
Yeah.
Let's say good
Good
night.
night, guys, and Erica.
Night.
All right, see ya.
Good night.